White people invented race to justify their oppression of the African people and their descendants, as well as to justify their mistreatment of the indigenous American tribes. So racism is always the aggressor. Race-based violence starts and ends with white people. Entirely different is bias. It's possible for a black person to be biased against a white person. It's defensive bias, though, because again, white people started and continued it to present day. So a black person not liking a white person or not trusting a white person on the basis that they're white is not racism. It's defensive bias based on 400 years of dehumanization and history and trauma that has not been atoned for.
Ever wonder why racism and white privilege really exist? It's not just about hate. It's about identity, or more accurately, the lack of it. See, one of the biggest problems with decolonization is, what do you do with the colonizers? It's a fair question, especially if, like me, you live in a country built on colonization. Because we, the descendants of settlers, are stuck in this strange identity crisis. We've lived here for centuries, but we've never actually belonged to the land we're on. We treat it like a trophy from some conquest that never really happened. We ravage, strip mine, harvest massive tracts of timber, and we pollute this land with barely a second thought. We do that exactly because we never really connected to it. We exploit it because it's only valuable to us as a commodity, for our personal gain. And then there's the purposeful erasure of tens of thousands of years of indigenous history and the harm we've caused the delicate balance of nature and its animals since colonization. It's further clear evidence of that fact. At the same time, colonizers don't have any connection to their ancestral lands either. For example, my ancestors hail from Ireland and Germany, and I know very little about either of those countries. I can't even imitate my genetically native Irish tongue or speak German. I have no connection to Europe. Not culturally, not spiritually, nothing. That thread was cut a long time ago. See, colonialism didn't just erase indigenous connection to the land, it also severed ours to anywhere else. So if we don't belong to the land we live on, and we don't belong to the lands we came from, who are we? That's why colonial identity so often shows up as either overt racism or indignant privilege. Because when your identity is paper thin, you lash out at anyone who challenges it. And I'm sure the comment section of this video will prove that point nicely. But deep down, colonial people want to belong. That's why we obsess over ancestry tests and family trees. We're trying to build a history that was erased to justify our own. Because identity, like culture, is built on history. But colonial countries are continually erasing their history to prop up the justification for colonization in the first place. We delete the history to maintain a fake identity. But no identity can grow because we keep deleting our history. So colonial identity never grows deeper than surface level, or what I like to call the sports and barbecue culture. Our real history is full of horror and hate, which we bury shallow and keep pretending it isn't there. And that open wound is left to fester and poison every generation that follows. But here's the hopeful part. It doesn't have to be that way. Decolonization and land back doesn't mean pack up and leave. They mean show up differently. They mean acknowledging that real history of this land, the pain we've caused, and building a system that values justice over dominance. Because if we do that, if we finally stop hiding from our past, maybe we'll all stop wondering who we are and start building a future where everyone actually belongs. Anyway, something to think about. Peace out. And if you're not already following me, you should.
Hello good people, welcome to African Commentary. Here we learn and grow every day, and if you're new here, kindly consider subscribing, liking and sharing the videos. I will really appreciate. In this video today, we come across some white people who can confess that the system they created doesn't actually favor them. It hurts them instead of black people. they come and confess that they can't actually survive without black people. And we as black people, we thought that they can actually survive without us, and that is why they hate on black people so much. So before I speak much, let's listen to what they had to say, and then I'm going to give my 2 cents at the end. Also, let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below.
White people invented race to justify their oppression of the African people and their descendants, as well as to justify their mistreatment of the indigenous American tribes. So racism is always the aggressor. Race-based violence starts and ends with white people. Entirely different is bias. It's possible for a black person to be biased against a white person. It's defensive bias, though, because again, white people started and continued it to present day. So a black person not liking a white person or not trusting a white person on the basis that they're white is not racism. It's defensive bias based on 400 years of dehumanization and history and trauma that has not been atoned for. No reparations have been made, no apologies have been given by the majority of white people. Most white people will tell you, I didn't do it, so I'm not responsible. I've never been racist to a black person. Why do they hate me on the basis of my skin color? That's racist. No, that's smart. Every time black people have tried to create their own communities, white people have come in and ruined it and destroyed it. We've stolen everything they've ever tried to build for themselves. Black creativity and culture is the most plagiarized and least accredited phenomenon in the world. To this day, everyone steals from the black community and their creativity and their artists. It's not TikTok slang, it's AAVE, it's Ebonics. You look stupid. It's not yours. It's not ours, it's theirs. It's
going off the top of my head for a minute. I'm not sure there's any other way out. I've done the math. I'm not sure there's any other way out of this outside of essentially white people destroying each other. Because, like, this country was built on white violence, specifically by white men. And I feel like that's the same way it has to crumble. And I think, like, as we have seen so many non-white communities take a step back, it has really highlighted and illuminated how fucking weak specifically white men are. Because you hear it all the time, right? If you touch my kid, I'll shoot you. If the government tries to take my guns, I'll exercise my Second Amendment rights. If you come for my neighbor, I'm coming for you. Like, all this shit, it just doesn't happen, dude. Like, the only violence that comes out right now is aimed at everybody that isn't white. And a few white people took the heat too, clearly. But I knew that peace shit was out the window, like, years ago. Like, peace rooted in white supremacy, which is just inaction and comfortability, will do nothing to fucking stop what's happening. And I think the reality is white people that do care right now are scared to go toe-to-toe with the white supremacist violence that destroys everything else. Because you see all these white people look around and be like, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And the reality is, like, we have to put some real shit on the line. Yeah, I mean, like, including our bodies and our lives. And what, 96% of white people aren't willing to do that shit? Well, the natural outcome of that is black and brown bodies get stacked up while white people throw a fucking fit over being critiqued over the No Kings protests. The white men that care right now, y'all need to be in the gym or at the range. Me personally, I'm not a fucking pacifist. I never have been. And again, this peace shit, the idea of peace that white people want to hold on to, this idea of basically non-confrontational approaches, literally just doesn't fucking work. So white violence built this country, and the destruction of the white body may make way for something new. I don't know. Just some thoughts. Especially like, and I'll wrap it up, but especially seeing these white men go after kids at a protest or go after non-white communities all the fucking time. White men should be out there putting other white men's faces into the fucking concrete for doing any of that shit. That's just my opinion though. But maybe that's because I'm white and that's our nature is violence. Who knows?
Let every dirty, lousy tramp arm themselves with a revolver or a knife and lay in wait on the steps of the palaces of the rich, and let us kill them without mercy, and let it be a war of extermination, and let us devastate the avenues where the rich live. Lucy Parsons, 1885. And as always, death to imperialism and its agents, and all power to the people.
So a liberal or a centrist might agree with you that capitalism is destroying the planet, but then they'll look you dead in the eye and say, well, just show me one place in which socialism has ever worked. This is a rhetorical challenge naturalized by 75 years of propaganda. It feels earnest to the people who utter it. And the standard response from Marxists could be better. Often, it's merely to flip the question. Show me one place in which socialism has been allowed to flourish free from attack. I believe a better strategy involves showing why capitalism makes it impossible to know important things like how socialism is working or not working, and then to give a concrete example like this one. In September of 1973, Augusto Pinochet was installed as leader of Chile via a CIA-backed military coup. Now, before the coup, Santiago was South America's most concentrated site of radical left intellectual production. There were 5 think tanks in the city that hosted an international network of Marxist economists and sociologists who had an amazing lab at their disposal, because they were working in dialogue with Salvador Allende's socialist government. Santiago was a research hub for scholars from North America and Europe, and Latin American scholars shared their findings abroad. They were working on something called dependency theory, which described how wealthy nations developed through colonialism, but then underdeveloped their former colonies through debt, forcing them to send surplus back to the core. Pinochet destroyed this research ecosystem. Research centers were closed within hours of the coup. Researchers were killed, imprisoned, or scattered across Mexico, Europe, and Latin America. He appointed retired military goons as rectors of universities. Troops tear-gassed campuses, violently arrested students, and destroyed lab equipment. Then there's the case of Orlando Letelier, a Marxist economist and diplomat under Allende. After the coup, he fled to Washington, D.C., where he worked in academia until 1976, when agents of Pinochet's secret police killed him in D.C. with a car bomb. This was one of the first foreign state-sponsored terrorist attacks on American territory, because a CIA-backed right-wing dictator didn't like this guy's research on the flow of capital in Chile. So if you give an example like this, it still might feel remote to the centrist. But then you can say, capitalists and fascists never want people studying what's happening. Have you heard of all the medical, environmental, and climate scientists Trump has shit-canned? And they might recognize this because many pride themselves on being well-informed. So you can show that capitalists don't want people to know important things. They don't want anyone to know how socialism works, just like they don't want anyone to measure rises in disease or pollution or atmospheric heat. And if you really want to drive the point home and level it up, you can ask, do you know how many journalists the IDF has killed in Gaza? And the answer is basically all of them.
There is a lie central to American slavery, a lie that the slavers told themselves. There is no doubt that their lifestyles were opulent, that their clothes were the finest, that their wives were adorned in the newest pearls, the flashiest gemstones, that in the summers they could vacation to Europe and travel and see the world, that there is an opulence that appears genuine on the outside, but once you scratch it just a bit, you realize why the South was willing to burn the entire country down to keep their slavery. It's all rotten. It's rust underneath the gilding. Then once you take that top layer of paint off, there's nothing in it but a hollow soullessness. And that hollow soullessness is reflected in the way that a planter's wife looks overlong at any slave with lighter skin than his mother and wonders is my husband the father of that child? It is in the way that the head of the household, supposedly this moral paragon, who spends all his time abusing his female slaves in one way and beating his male slaves in another, that when he leaves the home, he too is paranoid that his wife is finding satisfaction with someone that isn't him. It's fear, rank fear, that the poor whites in the community would one day realize that the reason they are impoverished is that all of the unskilled labor, and by the 1850s, a large portion of the skilled labor, is being done by those who are owned instead of those who are free. That rather than compete with their peers of multiple ethnic backgrounds for jobs and their merit would guide them, instead, that poor white man must understand that his job must be sacrificed on the altar of slavery. And if he figures that out, he might set the system on fire. It is the understanding, persistent above all others, that there is no liquid cash to spend. There is wealth, plentiful wealth, but that wealth is tied up in land, in human bodies, in the manor, in the tools, in the cotton, but not tied up in money. And so the liquid cash, the capital that these planters would spend on their lavish vacations, fine suits, and the best cigars, are taken out on loans, asset-backed loans, where their house is the collateral, where their slaves are the collateral, where their land is the collateral. That if the system changes, or God forbid, the system ends, their wealth and prominence dies with it. And so they concoct lies. First, lies that they tell themselves, that of course that child with lighter skin doesn't look like my husband, even when he does. Of course my wife, who looks overlong at one of the house servants, doesn't mean anything by that, because she can't. Of course the white men in my employ love me, respect me, value me, because they must. Of course the slaves are happy here and wouldn't rip us apart if given the opportunity for all the pain we visited on them, because they must be. And so when it is Abraham Lincoln who ascends to the presidency, he is the tyrant for the South. He is here to steal your property and take your business and your home, not because he is, but because he must be. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, hit the button so the algorithm brings you back. See you next time.
If you do nothing else today, please, I implore you to listen to this brilliant woman who has my utmost respect. Listen to the whole thing.
Your religion is not special, and you are not special for believing it. Your book has no authority over anyone except yourself. Between this mandatory reading list and the bills passed last year, like SB 965, which would allow a teacher to preach these stories as if they were fact, it is clear that a special level of arrogance is infesting the Texas government, because it does take a truly special level of self-delusion to think that you are so star-spangled special that your preferred interpretation of your preferred translation of your preferred unsubstantiated, unproven, unfalsifiable claim is correct to the point that you think you have the right to indoctrinate the next generation with it. This is clearly a Christian supremacist agenda, if not evidenced enough by the fact that no other religions are on this list, then by the fact that you've had a parade of Christian supremacists at this podium openly stating that they believe their faith system is superior, supporting this list. This is not providing historical and cultural context, and to act like it is insulting to the intelligence of everyone here, especially considering we're talking about a religion that has done its best to erase history and wipe out other cultures in the places that they've colonized. And in a day when Texas government has removed restrictions on teaching these stories as if they were fact, we had a whole series of Supreme Court cases on teaching your religion's objectively wrong claims as if it were equal to empirically verified facts, and not once could Bible thumpers provide any evidence better than magic. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old, not 6,000. Humans are not descended from a dirt man and a rib. There was never a global flood, and a person cannot survive in the belly of a whale for 3 days. I know that some of y'all are desperate to pull fact down to the level of religion by pretending evidence-based science is a religious idea, but like it or not, these are things that we can actually study and test and provide evidence for. Critical thinking, investigation, and the scientific method encourage curiosity and learning, whereas the Christian religion is happy to end any investigation with accept God did it or burn for eternity. This dogmatic thinking has led to centuries of hatred, genocide, and support for slavery, and to indoctrinate children into it is a direct harm. Vote against this list.
That is fucking spot on and what I'm talking about.
So despite what all Americans are told, we were not raised Americans. We were raised inside of one of 10 distinct cultural nations that just happen to share a flag. Here's the map they never showed us in school, and the nations I'm talking about. Number 1, Yankeedom. Founded in the 1620s by English Puritans who came to build a godly society through institutions, which is why Yankees are earnest, civic-minded, and convinced good systems can make people better. Boston, Minneapolis, Milwaukee are examples. Next, we have New Netherland, founded in 1624 by Dutch merchants who came for no other reason than to trade, not religious reasons, which is why New Yorkers are transactional, tolerant, blunt, and frankly unimpressed by anything that doesn't perform. New York City is that whole nation. Next, we have the Midlands, founded in the 1680s by English Quakers in Philadelphia, which is why Midlanders are friendly, modest, conflict-averse, and suspicious of anyone making a scene. Includes Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Kansas City. Next, we have Tidewater, founded in the early 1600s by English gentry trying to recreate an aristocracy, which is why Tidewater people carry this old money formality about them and this quiet sense that the best days may have been before the Civil War. Richmond, Norfolk, and Annapolis are a part of the Tidewater region. Next, we have Greater Appalachia, founded in the 1710s by Scots-Irish borderlanders, my ancestors, who spent centuries fighting the English, which is why Appalachian people are fiercely independent, loyal to their own, and willing to fight you over a perceived slight that may be decades after the fact. Nashville, Pittsburgh, Knoxville, all included. Next, we have the Deep South, founded in the 1670s by Barbadian planters who built a rigid caste system to run the plantations, which is why Deep South culture runs on hierarchy, charm, and a long memory for who belongs there. Charleston, Atlanta, and Birmingham, all included there. Next up, we have Acadia, founded in the early 1600s by French Catholic farmers. They were violently expelled by the British in 1755 and resettled in the Louisiana Bayou as the Cajuns, which is a shortening of Acadians, which is why Cajun people are joyful, resilient, and unwilling to let business interrupt a good meal. Lafayette and the parishes west of New Orleans are the best example. El Norte, founded in the 1500s by Spanish Catholic settlers, the oldest European culture in America by a full century, which is why Norteños are independent, family-centered, and carry a confidence that doesn't need outside validation. San Antonio, El Paso, Albuquerque, good examples. Next, we have the Far West, founded in the 1800s, not by settlers, but by corporations and the federal government hiring labor to extract resources, which is why Far West people prize self-reliance and carry a chip on their shoulder about being acted upon by distant powers. Denver, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, all part of the Far West, including like Wyoming, Idaho, etc., Boise, Montana, etc. And then finally, you have the left coast, founded in the 1840s by the New England Yankees who sailed around the continent bringing utopianism with them, which is why left coasters are very idealistic, very earnest, and have zero patience for irony about the values that they practice where they live. San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, main examples. So you have 10 nations, 400 years of settlement. Every American city is running one of these as its cultural operating system. Sometimes two in the case of New Orleans, which is basically Acadia plus Deep South. That's why it can't peak, that's why it can't be replicated. But once you know which nation your city is running in, and which nation you are basically from, everything about the currency of the place you live, everything about how your family thinks politically starts to make a little bit more sense. Whether you're more collectivist, whether you're more libertarian, whether you're a little bit more progressive, whether you're a little bit more conservative. Voting patterns follow these 10 nations as well. And so chop it up in the comments. Hope this was really informative. Let me know where you live. Let me know what nation, quote unquote you're part of. As always, be civil, be constructive, but I want to hear what you think.
But the first time you do something that you have always wanted to do, you feel some kind of joy. There is that pride you have because you have accomplished what you have always wanted. And in this case, I'm speaking of white people wanting to have superiority over black people, white people wanting to colonize black people. You know, this is something that they really enjoyed during that time. They enjoyed dividing and conquering black people. Right now is when the truth hits, because even those lands, colonial lands that they took away from black people, are not helping them because they are not theirs and they can't claim them at the same time. They don't belong. You take away something that is not yours, thinking that, you know, now you have the superiority, it's going to be yours. But in the end, it turns out that no, this is not right. I don't belong here. I don't feel at home. The time you're doing that thing, it was like you're out of the world, you know? You have achieved everything. You have accomplished everything. And when they created the system of racism, this was to favor them, so they can have all that they want, and black people don't get everything they want. That's why they would have the best facilities. Their children will go to the best schools. Black people just get the trash, you know. Some white people can come and confess that the system they created, instead of the system favoring them, it's the one which is hurting them, because now they have created this system based on discrimination, that black people are not supposed to get the good things. They're the ones supposed to get the good things. And now they realize we can't really survive without black people, because when they segregated black people were like, you know what, it's okay. Let's create our own communities. Let's have our own facilities. Let's just do things our own way, have our own culture and all that. People realize when these people depend on themselves, we are losing. We can't survive without the black community. We need the black community in everything that we do, because black people are our consumers in our businesses. It comes to their farms, they are crying that they don't have workers. Who do they expect to be working on their farms? Black people. So they realize that this system we created based on discrimination, based on racism, is not working in our favor, because we are losing. We are losing a lot in terms of workers. Now their crops are being destroyed. They have no one to harvest the crops, no one to work on their farms. They thought that black people would just work on their farms. But right now, black people have said, you know what, it's time you handle your own businesses. Let's handle ours. When it comes to their businesses, they know that black people are their largest consumers. Right now, black people are not buying in their shops, in their malls, and they are incurring losses. This is when they realize, hey, this system that we created, we need to do something about it. But is it too late? I think it's too late, because they enjoyed the benefits that came with the system they created, the time they created it. They enjoyed ruling over, they enjoyed having the best of everything, while black people were suffering. So why then would the black community come and say, you know what, let's work together? And they know behind their minds what they went through, especially for black Americans. You know very well, these people are colonizers. These people are the slave masters. These people are the ones who made us suffer, are the ones who made our ancestors suffer. So why would then black people want to work with them again? They can admit their faults, they can admit that they messed up, but now taking accountability is where they draw the line. Giving reparations to the black community is where they draw the line. So I'm like, you just speak, you just want to create that image that, you know, now you are regretting what you did. now you are asking for forgiveness. But when it comes to actions, why are you not doing something meaningful? Why are you not giving even reparations to Black communities? Actually, you're the first ones on the lines to say, you know, it was not us, it was our ancestors, and it was not the current Black Americans, it was their ancestors who owned slaves. What do these people want? Because they are, can I say, double-sided. They want to interact, they want unity with Black Americans, they want unity with the Black community, but at the same time they are not ready to take accountability. At the same time they are not ready to say, you know, we messed up, yes, but this is what we are going to do to improve your life. This is how we are going to support you. This is how we are going to create awareness for the things you have undergone. Why can't they speak of that? On the front line, they're just there speaking for their own people, supporting their own people, discriminating still, but at the same time, they want the Black community around them. They want to take away their culture. They want to take the credit that comes with Black American culture. Black Americans have now learned much and they know who they're dealing with. These are people who are not genuine, who are not real, who just want to save their image, and they will do anything, they will say anything to save their image, but in reality they are not genuine. If they are genuine, let them do something intentional towards the Black communities, towards Black people, towards Black Americans. Let them do something that we can say, finally they have done something and there is hope for change. So with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share, and I really appreciate. See you in the next video. Bye.